Hello and welcome to this week's Prime Group Kaleidoscope. We've been seeing much of Galface green in recent weeks due to the ongoing protests. Now, Galface was initially laid by the Dutch so their cannons could have a strategic line of fire against the Portuguese. In 1859, Governor Sir Henry George renovated the promenade for horse racing and a golf course. But many a game of cricket, polo, rugby, football and even tennis was played here. Today it continues to ink history as Sri Lankans gather in their hundreds of thousands to instigate change in the future path of this country. Today we also remember those who died in the Easter bomb attacks 3 years ago. Our hearts are with those families who lost their near and dear.
Welcome to The Grand, Ward Place, an award-winning condominium project where luxury embraces aesthetics, discernment, life and privacy as one. Call 0702 777 777 to schedule a private viewing today. The Grand, there is only one.
Ahead on our show of Positive Daring Different, where does Sri Lanka stand? Stretching rubber to contribute more. A song that resonates in present times. Keep us on your radar, subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn.
Welcoming all of you with warmth and care. Commercial Bank. Our interest is in you.
Now here's a quick look at the week that was on Commercial Bank Snapshot. The IMF states that any potential loan program with Sri Lanka requires adequate assurances that the country's debt can be put on a sustainable path. Fitch Ratings has pushed Sri Lanka's economic growth down to 1% in 2022, while the banking sector's outlook has been revised from neutral to deteriorating. As at 31st December 2021, People's Bank offshore liquid assets dropped to $239 million from $1.165 billion a year ago. India is to provide an additional $500 million to Sri Lanka to purchase fuel, while China intends to give emergency humanitarian assistance. An ancient altar has been discovered during renovations in Jerusalem's Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The oldest known gorilla in the world turns 65.
Welcoming all of you with warmth and care. Commercial Bank. Our interest is in you.
Welcome, you're watching Commercial Bank News Capsule. The Colombo Stock Exchange remains closed this week. From December 2020, the Sri Lankan rupee, which was at 185 to the US dollar, has devalued now by over 100%. Or to put it in more simple terms, the price of any imported item which you bought in December 2020 now costs you at least double. WTI oil was trading higher this week at 103.5 US dollars per barrel, with Libyan oil exports terminals shutting down and Russian oil shipments abroad falling by 25%. Gold was stable at 1,950 US dollars per ounce as rising short-term US interest rates and high yields put a cap on upward movement. Sri Lanka, the pioneer of global natural rubber and a leading natural rubber producer in the world for over 150 years, had an impressive $1 billion in exports in 2021. Rubber and rubber-based products contribute a steady 8.5% to total merchandise exports. With me today is the chairman of the Colombo Rubber Traders Association, Amanda Veerasinghe. Amanda, as synthetic rubber prices have risen due to the recent oil price hike, natural prices have also moved up. Has this price increase benefited the grower and the exporter, or has it been negated by high inflation and overhead costs?
Most definitely it has benefited the producer and the exporter, largely the producer, because his cost of production is about 450 rupees at best and the rubber is selling at 900 rupees. So it's a very good time for the producer. I hope they can sustain it, and the stretch rubber then gets overstretched and snap.
So will this trend continue?
I expect the trend to continue this whole year, provided there is no political interference like the chemical fertilizer fiasco last year. Both rubber and tea needs a chemical fertilizer. Moreover, the government wanted us to provide $1 billion in export revenue, and we did in 2021. So I hope they take notice of this and do not interfere and just be a facilitator in going forward.
One of the UK's most bizarre yet thrilling events, the annual car jumping competition, was held this week. Drivers accelerate over a ramp and fly over a line of assembled old cars to hopefully land on the opposite side.
Welcome to The Grand, Ward Place, an award-winning condominium project where luxury embraces aesthetics, discernment, life and privacy as one. Call 0702 777 777 to schedule a private viewing today. The Grand, there is only one.
And time for good news. Congratulations to our winners of our 100th program and our Aurudu program. Thank you, Fox Resorts, Rodrigo's and Atirasa for coming on board with the gifts. Also, our speed reading with Sanjeev gifts are still up for grabs. It's completely free.
We are here to better your lives and champion your every goal. With 12 billion rupees worth of customer benefits in 2020 and a life insurance fund worth over 100 billion rupees, our strength is your strength. You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Srilanka Life.
Last week, Sri Lanka's unblemished track record of external debt servicing came to a screeching halt when the country suspended debt servicing for an undefined period. This led to a downgrade of Sri Lanka's ratings by Moody's, Fitch and Standard & Poor's, while 13 commercial banks operating in Sri Lanka have been placed on a watch list. With the default news came various perceptions ranging from Sri Lanka being bankrupt to default not being a good option. On Srilanka Life Let's Talk, we have Executive Director of Verite Research, Dr. Nishan Dimel, giving us a clearer view on the Sri Lankan debt default situation. So welcome, Nishan, to Srilanka Life Let's Talk. You know, there's been so much happening in Sri Lanka, and this word default, has it really become a dirty word?
So, you know, the word default is not a black and white word, and there are many shades of grey. So I would say it's really not just about whether you default, but how you default that makes it, you know, less problematic or more problematic.
So country ratings have hit rock bottom. Some call Sri Lanka a failed state. Some say the country is bankrupt. Some say remedial measures are too late. Where exactly does Sri Lanka stand?
So each of these words, Savithri, that you use have different meanings in different contexts. So I would say the country is bankrupt in the sense that we can't provide essential imported items from fuel to electricity to medicine to the population. That's a type of bankruptcy. We have failed in the sense that we have not managed to keep our debt in a sustainable way. That the way we have run government has made our debt unsustainable, and that's a significant failure that causes us to restructure debt. In doing the restructure and the default, we've been too late. So I said that it's many shades of grey. We are on the very darker side of grey because we did not do it on time. And that is really where we are right now.
So what's the immediate panacea, and then at least in what happens in the short term?
So I think there are three things we should try to do immediately. We should first shift the allocation in our budgets. There is enormous human suffering right now. And the budget allocations need to shift away from physical security and physical infrastructure, because we spend more on our military than we do on health and education, towards human security and human infrastructure. That's health, education and welfare, poverty relief. Secondly, now that we have suspended debt payments, we can look for bridge financing. That is, we can ask other countries, other organizations to come and offer support to supply the essentials like fuel, like medication, and it's called bridge financing till we get the restructuring sorted out. Thirdly, I think we can also get grants from the World Bank, ADB, and they've already offered to really cushion the impact on the most vulnerable and most affected people in Sri Lanka. So those are three things we should do immediately.
So Nishan, it's not going to be easy. What should the country expect and be prepared for as these measures are put in place, and how long is it going to take?
So I think this how long depends on how we set about it, and that's a very important question. I would say if we do three things, if we invest rigorously in having a plan to agree with the IMF, because you need a plan. You can't simply expect the IMF to solve the problem. You have to have a plan that's suitable for Sri Lanka. You have to, secondly, have a strong negotiation analysis with your creditors. Are you going to restructure local debt? What are the pros and cons? What is the offer you're going to make creditors? And you have to have a menu of options when you go into a negotiation. That also requires analytical investment, and those have to be done right away. But 3 months down the road, as you are ready in that negotiation process to come to closure, you need to make sure that government is both legitimate and stable. And you're not going to create insecurity for that agreement on the basis that there'll be elections in 6 months' time, or that the government is not acceptable to the people. So if you can get a legitimate, stable government with a good plan for the economy, and analytical sort of rigor put into negotiating positions and options, then we can close this in 6 months.
In the immediate, what can corporates, Sri Lankans abroad, and Sri Lankans here, how can they be helpful?
Yeah. So I think what we may want to think from a corporate perspective, we know everybody is hurting, but some people are hurting more than others. I think salaries of the people who are paid the least, paid under 50,000, probably need to go up to support their ability to function and exist in a society where food inflation is over 30% and general inflation is almost 20%. And I think we need to support the most vulnerable amongst us. That's not just a job left to government, that's for all of us. I think Sri Lankans abroad can think about how they invest back in Sri Lanka, invest in our export sector, bring brains and talent back into Sri Lanka, because the country must grow on its human and capital investment, and that is something that people outside and people internally can continue to try and provide. Rather than escape the situation, we can try and invest back and look for the long-term health of the country.
It's a long road ahead, Nishan. I just hope we all have the resilience and the courage to see it through.
I do too, Savithri. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
On Life in 60 today, we feature We Are Sri Lankan, a song composed by Chris Dasan way back in 2003 for national carrier Sri Lankan Airlines. The lyrics speak of the indomitable spirit of Sri Lankans, the resilience and the courage, which today, 20 years later, resonates with this nation.
In my travels around the world, one thing became very clear to me. That is that we did not and we do not possess a Sri Lankan identity, which is why I wrote the song and called it We Are Sri Lankan. It speaks of the resilience of Sri Lankans. It's an uplifting song, and I think it holds true today because we all need to come together, unite, and work as Sri Lankans and overcome the issues that we are faced with. Like the song says, we are Sri Lankan, and we will be Sri Lankans all through our lives.
Until we return next Friday, here's our Kaleidoscope takeaway taken from Chris Dasan's lyrics for We Are Sri Lankan. We will try to make things right for our land, once called paradise.
ஒவ்வொரு வெற்றியையும் நெஞ்சில் சுமப்போம்